The planet is dying. Cold winds blow. Fires rage. Trees are withering. In other words, it's brutal out there. Only you can stop the Dark King from consuming the light from the crystals of Earth, but don't think it'll be a walk in the park. You're up against the sleaziest of slime bags and the evilest of ecto scum. We're talking serious monsters here. This isn't your basic shoot 'em into smithereens kiddie game either. You'll have to think your way out of some tough spots. Think you can handle that? Unfortunately, that is the back of the box for the unfortunately named Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. From Squaresoft, released in 1992, known as Final Fantasy USA, Mystic Quest in Japan, and Mystic Quest Legend in Europe and Australia. Part, of course, of the Final Fantasy franchise, which I think is the biggest ding that this game has. It's unfortunate. It's got a really huge Wikipedia article, too, compared to some of the other games we've looked at. This was a spin-off to Final Fantasy. It was first released in North America and marketed as a simplified role-playing game designed for entry-level players. I cannot stress that enough, because anytime I talk about this game or read reviews about this game or anything about this game, people always say, it was so easy. God, it wasn't even like a good game. It's way too easy. Well, designed for the entry-level player. It's like on everything. Yeah. It's not for you. This was an attempt to broaden the genre's appeal. The presentation and battle system is broadly similar to that of the main series, but is differed in its inclusion of action-adventure elements. It was the first Final Fantasy game to be released in Europe, so there's that. We control a youth named Benjamin. On our quest to save the world, we have to reclaim a set of stolen crystals that determine the state of the world's 4 elemental powers. Gameplay takes a departure from the main series in a variety of ways. Many series staples are eliminated, such as random battles and save points, manual equipment, and the party system. It had middling reviews and sales in North America and Japan, citing its simplified gameplay and lack of depth in the game's story. Over time, the game has kept the reputation of being a beginner's Final Fantasy and has been praised for its music. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Middling reviews citing its simplified gameplay and lack of depth of story. It says on the box, simplified role-playing game designed for the entry-level player. But it says Final Fantasy. Jeez. So, let's see. Designed by one of Square Development's team in Japan, was specifically geared for the US market. At the time, console RPG games were not a major genre in North America. Square thus attempted to broaden the genre's appeal through Mystic Quest. It had already released several spin-offs in North America, including the first 3 titles in the Saga series as Final Fantasy Legend, the first Mana series as Final Fantasy Adventure, and wished to further break into popular American consciousness. Square's executives cited the alleged difficulty of RPGs as a reason Americans shied away from them and eased the difficulty by tweaking aspects of the gameplay. The American release of 4 was altered to make the game simpler, for example. Mystic Quest was to take this one step further, and the Japanese developers worked with the American offices to make sure the game was accessible to children. It was developed in a graphic and gameplay style similar to Legend 3, part of the aforementioned Saga series, and it shares numerous similarities with that title, featuring a similar battle system, interface, and dungeon system. Even the jump feature has been reproduced, and almost all the icons from caves to enemy sprites are a color-upgraded version of Legend 3's character set. Besides allowing for computer-controlled allies, they did away with random battles, complicated storylines, and text-based menus, to appeal to the perceived tastes of North American audiences, which gravitated towards fast-paced games. We did have action-adventure elements. Players can now brandish weapons outside of battle, jump, and use a grappling hook, and set bombs to open new paths. Ted Woolsey explained that the action-adventure players are large in numbers and the demographic is different. They tend to be younger and like the idea of jumping straight into the action with the sword in their hands. It's an empowerment issue. You get to go out there, start whacking things, and it feels good. With the more traditional RPGs, it takes a good 15 or 20 hours of playing before you finally get hooked. He stated that Mystic Quest was one of the easiest games he had to translate due to the small size. Because the game was marketed towards a younger demographic, it was only $40. Came with an official strategy guide that helped inexperienced and new RPG players complete it. The game was later presented. A soundtrack. Yes, we need to talk about the soundtrack because it's amazing. Composed by Ryuji Sasai and Yasuhiro Kawakami, one of the first games not to be composed by Nobuo Uematsu after Final Fantasy Adventure and Final Fantasy Legend. There was an album released on CD by NTT Publishing in 1993. ROM capacity limits and hardware limitations made the compression process difficult. After it was completed, Sasai recorded 2 remixes on his days off for the game's albums and personally played the guitar parts. Mountain Range of Whirlwinds was built off of Sasai's liking of the sound of the French horn. Oh, I know exactly what track that is, and that's a good one. And has the ability to go to length of the song and convey a sense of mountains. The track Last Castle was written in a short time and was used to create imagery of a field, but its length left very little space for the Battle 3 song. According to Square, it sold over 800,000 units. Half of these were in Japan. On its original North American release, Nintendo Power gave it a 29 out of 40, EGM an 86, and 29 out of 40 in EGM, 86% in electronic games. The way that sentence was laid out was weird. Did not generate much excitement, although it did have appeal to younger fans. The game ultimately failed in its bid to bring mainstream North American popularity to console RPGs, a feat that wouldn't be accomplished until Final Fantasy VII 5 years later, simultaneously alienated fans anticipating another epic following Final Fantasy IV. It had been described as Final Fantasy with an identity crisis due to the inherent flaw of creating a game that didn't appeal to masses or hardcore gaming audiences. Years later, reviewers have not looked favorably on it, including Kotaku calling it the worst Final Fantasy, Games Radar calling it a franchise embarrassment for its enemies that still stand up and wait for players to attack. IGN rated the Virtual Console release a 6 or okay, citing an extremely repetitive and simple battle system with little character development. 1UP rated the game a not worth it, calling hand-holding and insubstantial. It was praised for his music, including 1UP praising its sweet sampled metal guitar licks and listed the final boss music as one of the most downloaded songs for Final Fantasy music for Thetra Rhythm? I don't know, never heard of it. Praised by Games Radar for its music, mentioning the boss battle in their Game Music of the Day column, mentioning the rest of the game music is smooth and easy listening. On April 1st, GameSpot included Mystic Quest in an April Fool's list entitled Top 10 Games, which consists mostly of spin-offs. Praised for being easy and having simplistic graphics and plot. The game was re-released in the Virtual Console. Famitsu has reported that Square was preparing this game for release on the Android. And the main character, Benjamin, appears in the rhythm game that we mentioned earlier. So, again, here's the thing. It says on the box, this is for entry-level players. This is not a Final Fantasy game. This is not these are not the droids you're looking for. And then everybody plays it like, God, this sucks. This is way too easy. This is not the droid I was looking for. What the hell, game? Drives me nuts. There is nothing wrong with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. If it didn't say Final Fantasy in the front, people would love this game a lot more than they do. It is easy. It is kind of short, but the music is good. The graphics may be simple, but they work. The battle system may be simple, but it works. This is my stand on this game. It is simple, but it works. And because of that, you can have a lot of fun with it.